Hi, I'm Sam Witwer, and you're in the House of L.
Hi, I'm Al Goff.
And I'm Miles Miller.
Hi, this is John Schneider.
Hi, it's John Glover.
This is Justin Hartley.
This is Steve DeKnight.
This is Aaron Ashmore.
This is Cassidy Freeman, and you are listening to Starkville.
Starkville, House of L. Starkville, House of L.
Starkville, House of L.
The podcast.
My next guest this week in our series of Smallville 25 interviews is really somebody, if you're a genre fan, needs no introduction. Everything from Smallville to Supergirl to Star Wars, you name it, he's been in it. Sam Witwer, thanks for being in the House of L today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. You doing all right, man?
Yeah, just in the middle of some work stuff, but yeah, everything's good.
Is this is this central location for you when it's voiceover time? Is this where you're usually seated if you're recording from that one of many?
No, I have a booth over there, which is where I'm at. But this is my home setup, and oftentimes I am in other setups like LA studios or something like that.
Right. Well, I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about, memories of Smallville. We're talking about the 25th anniversary of the series, which is just crazy in hindsight to think we're here. Even you being on later in the series at season 8, we're still, 15. So years, or 11, 10, 12, I can't do math, years removed away from that. And what is it like for you to look back on this series so many years later?
Well, I'm gratified that people care about this so long after the fact. I mean, actors are lucky to be in shows that anyone cares about after they're done. So I feel very fortunate to have been involved.
You were in, actually, I was thinking about it last night in preparing for this. You were in 12 episodes of season 8, despite being series regular and in the opening credits and everything. And then I was marking down Supergirl notes because you were on there, and I was like, you were actually in more episodes of Supergirl than you were.
Did I only do 12? I thought I did more than
it was either 12 or 13. Yeah, 22 season, and then
is that right?
Regular,
I thought it was more like 15 or something like that.
Yeah,
is that right?
It's crazy to go back and think about. And, we've heard stories over the years. Obviously, Tom and Michael share their story, or Tom shares his stories from that season, not Michael so much, obviously. But, I know we've heard about you being sick through summers. Yeah. And I have to think that you pull from somewhere nice when you're doing the transformation into Doomsday, though, when you're that hunched over in pain.
That's appendicitis. That's what I pulled from. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that in your playbook now that you can pull from that later as needed?
I will say that was definitely at times a very challenging shoot. That was because I had my appendix out. I shot a day with a burst appendix, thinking, I don't know, is this food poisoning? This is really bad. The production was smart enough to take me to the doctor. They took some blood work. I go home after a day of shooting, and then production calls me up and said, "Hey, we heard from the doctor. We're picking you up right now. You're going to the emergency room." Like, oh no. And so I think I had like a week and a half off to try to recover from the surgery. And then I requested, I'm like, okay, well, there are these scenes where Davis is injured or thinks he's injured. Let's do those first. That was a big mistake, because one of the things I had to do was get up off a stretcher over and over again and engage all of the muscles around where the incision was. So that was really, really painful. And not to mention the fact that I was covered head to toe in blood. So I stuck to the gurney, to the stretcher. So it was like, I had to peel myself out, which was harder. And again, my whole body, I was covered in so much blood that I couldn't really even move my body. That was a hard day. There were a lot of hard days on Smallville.
I think everybody had hard days on Smallville at one point or another. With these shows, I mean, stunt heavy, obviously, very driven by sci-fi and fantasy elements and like that. But you're no stranger to that. I mean, obviously, having jumped around from thing to thing. Are you one that's like stunts? Yeah, I'm here. Go for it, or
for the right thing.
Yeah,
for the right thing, I am. Yeah, when I did Being Human, I did my own stunts unless it was some crazy thing with him being thrown off on top of a building or something like that.
Yeah.
With Supergirl, I remember there was a fight scene with, David Ajala's character, Manchester Black, and
Mhm.
my character was not supposed to be able to fight very well. So and he's wearing his full suit, and I watched the fight. I watched them shoot and rehearse the fight, and the stunt guy just looked a little bit too good, so I'm like, Just put me in there." And they were like, "Well, do you know the choreographer?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter." I was like, just let him kick my ass. You're gonna get the right body language because I don't know what I'm doing in this fight. I haven't rehearsed it. So he'll just throw me around and it's gonna look right because my character needs to show, incompetence in this point." So I remember I did that. David Ajala beat me up pretty well. And then I remember I took the mask off. I had a black eye. I was like, "Oh, man, that right, the mask isn't padded," and stuff like that. So I've gotten some serious wounds and injuries,
Yeah.
from doing these things. And the black eye is not serious. I'm talking like, it had to be fixed by a chiropractor over the course of months type stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Had a fire gag go wrong once where fire consumed me and, my eyebrows and eyelashes and hair on the side was, burned off, kinda came off in clumps. That was cool. It's funny because some people have different experiences in shooting this stuff. They're always long days, but I've often gone home with bruises and injuries, stuff like that. So, I'm happy to be in a VO booth
Oh, yeah.
here and
Yeah,
there.
they don't call it a craft for nothing. Uh,
Right.
what take me back, let's see, summer '08. Do you remember getting the call? Were you going out for this for Davis Bloom? Was this something that was approached to you or otherwise?
What did they do? They called me in for a meeting. And was it after that I auditioned, or did I audition and then they called me in for a meeting? But they did the process in terms of auditioning was it was one audition, that was it. Somehow someone became convinced that they wanted me in this role, and then they just offered it to me. That meeting was where they said, "Hey, he's gonna be this nice bartender guy. He's gonna be this sweetheart, and then we're gonna find out he's Doomsday." And then they
Yeah.
changed that to EMT, which I
Mhm.
thought was a good choice. So
I did. It was a big thing in the community. I remember everybody remembering because obviously the show was at a very different. It was it was a weird season. Obviously you know that from being there,
mhm.
but new bosses, long timers leaving, that kind of thing,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
new sets being built. So yeah, that was at one point Davis was to be a bartender, and then I remember when the sides came out officially and it was something we've joked about here on the show for years. It was charismatic paramedic is what we've always how we've always
Right.
referred to him.
I think if I had anything to do with, his charisma, it was to make him less charismatic, I thought, because the way he was written was very like, in the script, like, he just kind of knows the right thing to say, and he gives her a look and all that. And so I insisted that one of the first things he say to her, he stumble through it, that
Mm,
he mess up what he was about to say. I think there was something where he goes, "Thank you for your help, Chloe. You make a good wingman," or something like that. And so I said, "Thank you for your help, Chloe. You make a good wingman, wing person." And then he walks off, and I'm like, I think the audience is gonna like him a lot more if
mhm.
he blows a line, essentially. If he says something and he stumbles through it, they'll like him. If he's too smooth, they won't like him. If he knows what he's doing too much, I don't think they'll like him. But if he
Yeah.
comes in looking all like, "Hi, look at me, I'm so charismatic. How are you? How are you?" If he does that, you go, "Oh, okay. Yeah, he's a person. Okay."
Yes. And memorable,
So,
at that too. So, yeah, we had
yeah,
lots of Bloomsday. We had lots of names, for
Doomsday, I never heard that one. Never heard that one.
at the time. But
Um,
they were up front as far as you when you were going into the room for the one-time audition, but they've said he's gonna become,
Doomsday, which
the
was a real
creature. Yeah.
surprise. Yeah, I was
Oh,
like,
okay. So you did not know
"Really?"
that going into the room?
No, when I went into the meeting, I must have
Or
read for them after the meeting. But when I went into the meeting, they told me
Mhm.
what this guy was meant to be. And so for that reason, I think when I read, I think I knew kind of what I was doing because they told
Mhm.
me. They told me what the thing that they never tell actors in auditions. They told me what they wanted.
Yeah.
They told me how they wanted him to come off. So I walked in and was like, okay, well, I'll do that then.
Yeah.
that's
Maybe
that was a
that'll
nice
work.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
What, when you hear that though, were you familiar with the character? I mean, growing
Yes.
up, I know obviously you were into this stuff, but what did you think when you heard you're gonna be the first live action Doomsday, so to speak?
Right. Are we doing the green shorts or what are we doing?
Right,
Yeah, I
right.
mean, sure. I was very familiar with that whole plot line and thought what strange casting. But they had a great take
Yeah,
on the character. I really appreciated that Kelly Souders, Brian Peters, and Todd Slapkin, Darren Swimmer, they had a they had an idea. They had an
yeah.
idea, and I thought they wrote it really well. So, I liked that. I liked that. I liked the
Me too.
idea that Davis himself was the camouflage, but the camouflage was so good that the camouflage believed that it was
Mhm.
real, that he was a real guy. But the real programming was Doomsday underneath all that, and that was what was driving the bus. Uh, gave you something to play. I
Mhm.
like that.
I've
Yeah.
always given Todd and Darren and Brian Kelly big ups for that because coming in and being the new bosses and pitching something so beloved to the Superman franchise,
Yeah. Big
at the
deal.
first outing was yeah, was ballsy, out of the
It
gate,
was. Yeah.
um,
It really
and
was.
and setting themselves apart. Did obviously, you didn't wear the suit or mocap or
No,
anything like do
no,
anything like that, but
no, I didn't do that.
in your preparation as the shooting started and you were finding the beast within as you were because you still did have to become him, whether whether you were walking around in the suit or not, you still had to
Yeah.
become
And I had to
Doomsday.
hurt people and do bad
Mhm.
things and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So there had to be something where you saw some viciousness. Yeah.
right. Is
Yeah.
that that's not difficult for you to play, obviously, we know from the characters that you but personally, is that something that you slip into really well when you put on these masks, or is it something you
I
still
s
find difficult to play a
I
character like that?
suppose so. I how much I enjoy it or not is a
Sure.
different aspect because um, I'd like to think that you know, not that guy. But I think
Right.
it's my face, honestly. I think something about my face or the way I carry myself makes people, I don't know, think. I remember, when I was doing, Being Human, which was and the reason I bring that up is that the same casting director,
Mhm.
Smallville helped me get Being Human. And, but the casting director, they needed a monster who didn't want to be a monster, and she's like, "Oh, I think I know a guy who does this." So it's Aiden in Being Human was almost a funnier version of Davis,
Mhm.
right? Dealing with a lot of the same things. Um, but I remember, oh god, the exec on Being Human, um, Anna Fricky, the head of the show, we were having dinner one night, and she goes, there was this audition scene, and no one could get it right, Sam. No one there's this thing where you talk to your, to Bishop, and Bishop is a character played by Mark Pellegrino, and you tell
Mhm.
him, "I'm not back, Bishop." And it needed to have the weight of, "I'm not going back to the crime family. I'm not doing drugs anymore." It had to have that kind of gravitas to it because Being
Mhm.
Human was really about essentially the metaphor was that he was a recovering drug addict and he was trying to
Right.
keep away from his crime family. And then you dress it up as vampires, right? And, and so there's this line, "I'm not back, Bishop." And she goes, everyone else played it. "I'm not back, Bishop. I'm not back, Bishop." Like they just felt like they were 20-year-olds that this was not a 100, 200-year-old guy. And she was like, "And what we got from you," and I'm like, "Oh, cool. She's going to tell me I have gravitas as an actor." She's like, "What we got from you is you were the only actor who made us buy that you'd killed people." And I'm like, "Well,
So dinner's
I'm
on
sure
you.
there's a compliment in there somewhere." I was expecting some commentary on my ability to have some gravitas, and I suppose that in some way she was saying that, but she said that. You're the actor who convinced us that you'd killed people. And funny enough, I remember my agent Kim Dorr. She had a talk with me. She goes, we've been getting this feedback on these auditions. I'm like, great. I thought those last few went all right. And she's like, the acting went great. I'm like, oh, great, great. She's like, the talking before and after the acting did not. I'm like, oh no, did I say something? They're like, no, they just said, great actor. We're just afraid that his co-star is going to end up in the trunk of his car. And I'm like, fuck me, dude. What am I supposed to fucking do about this? I don't, because here's the thing. I can be real reserved. I can be quiet. I can also, like if you watch Being Human, we're all having a lot of fun and we're laughing and I like doing comedic stuff. But what it is in these auditions, you have to do something with your nerves, right? Like you're walking into someone else's room. And believe me, when I was a younger actor, I tried to bring the energy up in the room and, tell a joke or try to make someone laugh or something like that. And if you fail, if that joke goes down and lands with a thud, or if they're just not in the mood for that, you've killed your audition before you speak a word. Like if you go in there and you're a big smile, hey, how's it going? This and that. And they hit you coldly, your audition is done before you've even acted to a sentence. So the way that I went into auditions, and maybe this helped me get Smallville, was I went in neutral. And now if they smiled and joked at me, I'd give it right back, Sure. So I had this discussion with a casting director. She's like, you always came off as like, really like, whoa, be careful of this guy. And I'm like, did you ever think to just say, hey, Sam, and smile at me? Like, well, I'm like, it's your room. It's not my room. I do not dictate how things go in that room.
Sure.
If you joke with me, I will joke right back with you, and certainly that happened. There were some rooms where we're like, hey man, what's going on? I'm like, hey, how's it going? But I'm like, I need to protect the audition. I need to go in and be like, I'm here to audition. That's it. And if you want to talk, I'll give you back what the energy you give me, And when I said that to the casting director, she's like, oh my God, I never thought of that. I'm like, you never thought of that? You're a casting director. This is your job.
That's no different than somebody walking into your home. You just
and they're not only walking into your home, but like they're nervous.
Yeah,
all of us are nervous.
That's
so
funny.
The best thing I can do to protect my acting is to just come in and be a blank slate. So I don't know. There's a long answer to a question that I don't remember what the question was.
No, you got there. But what you got there? What do you like to play when you're not in the booth? When you are on camera, what do you like to play?
I don't know.
You don't care?
I don't know.
Really?
I've gotten to a point in my life and in my career where I don't even know what I want to be doing. No clue. I do a thing that my buddy David Collins calls playing the level. That's it. I play the level. Think about, I don't know, Super Mario Brothers or what was some of your early
Mario
gaming experiences? Yeah.
Mario.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to get up on that platform. Oh, wait. Dude, I found a secret. Okay, I'm going to climb this beanstalk. What is this? Oh my God, it's a cloud level? What's going on? Just playing the level. Like an opportunity will present itself and you go, oh, I guess I'll pursue that. I'll do this, I'll do that. And like the Maul series, I didn't go into the Maul series planning on being a producer on the series, but that happened. It just happened because that's how things unfolded. Just playing the level. So I don't know what I want to do. No clue. I feel tremendously lucky that when I did know what I wanted to do, I got to do those things. Like I wanted to be the number one on a TV series. I wanted that. I got that experience. I wanted to be in some movies. Okay, well, I did those. Wanted to be in Star Wars, got to do that. So I don't know.
Go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. Now it's just I'm just blindly flailing around, going, I don't know. I'm playing the level. I have no idea what I'm supposed to.
Do you like that? Do you like that variety?
Yeah. Variety is fun. Variety's good.
I would have to think it is. I'm going to go into Maul just because you brought it up, and I was going to anyway. But we'll work back around. How did that come about? Producing, because that was one question I did have for you that made me excited just to see it when the time came.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've always, going back to, say, Battlestar Galactica, Ron Moore and David Icke, and people like Aaron Douglas, who also, I think, guested on on Smallville.
He did.
There was a real improvisational thing happening on Smallville. All right, now on Battlestar, rather. Sorry. There was a real improvisational thing happening on Battlestar where David Icke and Ron Moore said, "Get one as written and then say whatever you want." And I'm like, why? What do you mean? Well, Aaron Douglas, like, you remember this scene in the pilot when he says to Adama, 40 seconds, I just needed 40 seconds. I could have gotten my guy out there. He's like, that was Aaron Douglas's idea. And him and Eddie just made that up in front of the camera and it's in the show. And I'm like, really? They were like, yeah. He's like, the performances are really unpredictable on this show because you never quite know what these actors are going to do. So get one as written and then say whatever you want. Become part of that is what they said to me. Make moments, do something. And that ruined me for the rest of my career. Totally ruined me because suddenly I was being asked to collaborate. I was being asked to chip in. And even though my role on Battlestar was pretty minimal, there were some key moments that I weirdly created. There's this early moment in Battlestar Galactica where we're looking for water and the fleet is running out of water. And these are the last humans in the whole universe. And we're running out of water. And if we don't make this jump and we don't find a comet or something that has ice, the human race dies. And so when we finally found it, I being in the spaceship, and it was played for realism, played for real military, real. They had Ron Blecker as the military advisor, real. I just started losing my shit when I found the water. I started cheering. I started doing this. I called up Galactica. I said, "Hey, Galactica, this is Crashdown. Dratus sweeps indicate it's time to break out the swim trunks because we found water." And I just did all this stuff. That was none of that was as written. And all of it made it into the episode because they were like, okay, yes, he's breaking all kinds of military protocol, but this was the last hope for humanity, this moment. And it fit well in the cut. Okay, right? So there were a lot of things like that I got to, especially season 2, where I actually was given some pretty good screen time. I got to contribute. So going forward, even in Smallville, like, I'll never forget my first day on set. Kelly Souders was so kind and so patient because I felt I was altering some of the dialogue with Chloe. And I said, isn't it more interesting if Davis doesn't know anything about Meteor Freaks? Like, he's read an article or two, but he's never been here. He's never seen these things. So wouldn't it be great if he's a little bit like a fish out of water? And then we find out he's the biggest meteor freak of all. And she let me do that. She let me do things like that. Or the thing about Davis stumbling when he's supposed to be challenging, he's supposed to be charming to Chloe, and he stumbles through this thing that he says. So jump ahead to Star Wars. When we started the Maul character in the Clone Wars, there wasn't any dialogue written for him in the first episode. And we discover him on this junk planet. He's down in the depths of the earth. There's fire everywhere. It's essentially hell. George Lucas mythologically wanted him to be in hell, and his brother, played by Clancy Brown, has to go down into hell and pluck him out because we saw him die in Phantom Menace. So we have to deal with that. And the script said he was insane, and the script said he was mumbling to himself, but it never said what he said. So I came in with tons of handwritten notes and performed all this dialogue, and that's what made it into the show. So starting with Maul on Clone Wars, I had an opportunity to do that somewhat improvisational, collaborative thing. So we did a little bit of that forever after when it came to Maul for the next 15 years. I would put a little input in there, and if it worked for Dave, we did it. If it didn't work, we didn't do it. Not all the ideas I came up with were winners. But we had a wonderful collaborative relationship. So when it comes to later when we were working on Maul, they brought me in early. I was there casting with them. I was looking at scripts early. I was weighing in on things. And because Dave Filoni asked the entire team to up the ante on every single department. For example, he wanted the choreography to be better with the fights. He wanted the cinematography to be better in the way that we shot it. He wanted the editorial to be snappier and faster. He wanted the poses to be stronger. He wanted the acting to be better. He wanted the writing to be better. He wanted everything that we'd ever done in Star Wars to be better than we had done it before. Every single department was given that directive. And because of that, because, these are departments who are very good at what they do for years and years and years. So you have to put your heads together and say, well, what new can we bring to it? And so things like shooting video reference, things like having meetings with different departments all together, talking about different things, that started happening. And I guess it happened enough with me being involved in that eventually they decided, they're like, well, you are working as a consulting producer, so we're going to make you that, which was a very generous thing that they did. Very, very generous. And I certainly hope that I, because you're useless as a collaborator if you do not observe the chain of command. And the thing is the leadership on this show is like spectacular leadership. Brad Rao is among the finest, most put together, collaborative and imaginative filmmakers I've ever worked with. Matt Miknovitz brings so much energy and enthusiasm to his writing and to what he wants to do with these characters. Athena Portillo is a nuclear-powered producer who just refuses to let her team fail. If we stumble, she's like, you're going to get another turn at bat. I'm going to pick you up. We're going to find the resources to try it again. Don't worry. We're going to make sure this is as good as it can be. Which when you have a producer like that, you feel like you can do anything. And everyone across the board is just top notch at what they do. And so it makes it easy for me to defer, especially with Dave Filoni at top, to come up with a bunch of ideas, lay them on the table, and then see which ones people are interested in, and then hopefully help develop that.
I think
within the framework within the framework of what Matt wrote and all of that stuff. It's always, my collaboration is the thing I always say to them is, I'm like, guys, they might like some idea I throw on the table, and I'm like, just remember, guys, I'm just riffing on your ideas. Like, I only had this thought because you guys wrote this. This is terrific. So,
I'll compliment you, of course, but it has to be in part because you're so good at the top of your game as well. You have to be very protective of Maul, I would think, like very protective of this character.
I am very protective of Maul, but I will say that it is great to be around a group of people who are also very protective of Maul. That feels great. So yeah, so there's a lot of fun to be had. Definitely, you feel more responsibility. So the stress level is higher, but I wouldn't have it on any other way. I love collaborating with these people. They're terrific at what they do, and they provide such a strong framework. Brad is really good at this. Brad is really good at, I'll be like, I think there needs to be a moment like this. And he's like, okay, well, what's interesting to me is you say this, but what we don't want to do, and then he goes through this whole philosophical discussion that is so educational to me in terms of how you make Star Wars. He's like, we need to know what that is. If we're going to play it, and we're going to show it, and the character is going to be expressing it and experiencing it. But boy, we don't want to explain all of this. Because you don't want to rob the audience of their ability to tell a story in their own head. That's part of the magic of Star Wars. And so he's like, so we're going to be very specific about what this means. But what is an evocative way? What is a way to express it that fires the imagination of the audience? You do not want, I call it Vlad the Explainer. You don't want Vlad the Explainer as your main character who's talking you through everything to explain everything. No, you don't want that.
It's like a Mad TV character.
Yeah. Well, and what it ultimately comes down to is that they want honest moments and human moments. And if you portray that, hopefully the audience does have something to wrap their imagination around.
In this sandbox now for a while, I was trying to think of
16 years, yeah.
Yeah, I was
19 years with Star Wars. 19 years
with Star Wars, yeah. And I was thinking I was thinking of Starkiller the other day and how much I played that first game. when it came out. What? And this is just me talking now. The entire audience is like, "Yep, Derek went to Star Wars." But I do want to know what you've been around. Correct me if I'm wrong. As long as Star Wars, right? You're 70. You're 77
77.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I have to think you have some ties that are so personal to you and that aren't just the surface level stuff that obviously everybody knows about. But
Hugely. I love that mythology.
when you're when you're cast in something with like a video game like that, in a time when Star Wars was hinging on those kinds of big tentpole things,
Right, right.
in the pre-Disney era. So, uh, what what was that experience like with you for those first two games where you're really getting your feet wet here with this mythology?
It was simultaneously a dream come true, while at the same time, you felt a real sense of responsibility because you do not wanna get it wrong. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I feel like I I don't wanna let myself down. I don't wanna I don't wanna do Star Wars dirty or if you get to take out the car, you better bring it back with 2 coats of wax and looking better than it was when it left the garage. It's important.
Tank should be full.
Yeah.
Um,
It's the same thing with Superman, though. I mean, the Christopher Reeve Superman movies were
yeah.
so important to me when I was a kid, and I love them dearly. So, when I first met Tom Welling, there was an inner geek reaction that I had where I was looking at him going, "Oh my god, that's Clark Kent."
Mhm.
It's my first reaction when looking at him. I was like, "Dude, that is 100% Clark Kent. I can't believe I'm looking at Clark Kent. He's right over there." It's very cool.
It's weird, with walking on the set and seeing them, for the first time. I can remember just thinking when I did, but it was and not even just this is the actor playing that, but you're right. I mean, they become in these iconic roles and they become bigger than
Mhm.
life, and it's hard to look at Tom and not think that still to this day.
And knowing Tom a little bit better now, he's perfect casting for that.
Yeah.
There there's a property I think that Superman actors need to have. Or I think. Not
Mhm.
everyone's gonna agree with me, but it's a certain humble nature,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, there's a version of a scene in every Superman property where people are all impressed with Superman, and how Superman reacts to them is says everything about Superman and
Yes.
who he should be.
I think about
What is
I think I think about Reeve telling the warden at the end of 78,
right.
"We're all on
"Don't
the
thank
same
me,
team."
we're all on
Yeah,
the
"Don't thank
same
me, we're
team,"
all on the
or,
same team." Yeah.
or he lands in the middle of the street and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's Superman." He's like, "No, no, no, thank you,
Yeah.
please step back, please step back." And he spins down into the thing. But there was a humble nature to Superman where he wasn't too impressed with himself. Um, uh, Tyler Hoechlin, is that how you say his
Mhm.
name?
Helkin,
I
yeah.
remember watching him. He lands, and the first thing he does with all these people are around him, and they're all looking at him like, and he just puts a big smile, goes, "Hi," and starts shaking people's hands. And you're
Mhm.
like, there he is. There's Superman.
Yeah.
Tom
Yeah.
has that humble energy.
Mhm.
Brandon Routh does as well.
Brandon
You know,
Routh to the T, yes.
yeah, when you meet Tom, when you meet Brandon, and I know Brandon pretty well as well. I've hung out with Brandon. They just look you right in the eye and they tell you the truth. Very unpretentious, chilled out gentleman. Um, and you just go, yeah, that's how you cast Superman. That's how you do it.
Mhm.
And Tom was an incredible example on set. An incredible example of like how you lead a series because he was all about the work. He was always pleasant. He was probably always exhausted, but you never knew it
Mhm.
because he was buoyant. He was totally focused. Um, Always on time, always knew his lines. Um, which again, you think, well, of course he knows his line. Be like, no, 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 not of course he knows his lines. The guy's there every day. He's there
Yeah.
every day for 16 to 19 hours. Probably longer in Vancouver because they would get around our
Sure.
rules. And so when's he going to learn that stuff? When does he learn it? Well, he figured out a way to keep doing it. So Tom was an incredible example of what a number one on a call sheet has to behave like.
I love that. I love you saying that because my knowledge of knowing that, everybody else that's always said that, it just seems to be true for him. He always has said a lot of nice things about you, equally. In the times he and I have discussed you and obviously your short time on the show, but just how memorable you were and,
I
that
d
you
I over here before I'm
No, you're
stopping you
good.
from saying nice things about me, but that's okay. I remember that I didn't totally understand what a number one was, and Tom was my first example of really watching someone. Like, I'd been around number ones, and I'd
Sure.
done a bunch of shows, but being the guy that had to be there every day. I even saw at one point there was a producer who shall remain nameless. It's not a producer I
Mhm.
have mentioned because the producers I've mentioned today were really, really great. This guy was a little bit of a problem. And I remember being on a set and he kind of picked a fight with Tom. Tom, in the middle of being exhausted, just kept his cool. He was just like,
Mm.
okay, well, and I just remember thinking like, God, this guy really, he embodied, like, you need Superman. You need Clark Kent to be your number one. And if you are the number one on a show or a movie or whatever, be like Clark Kent. Be like Tom. Be humble. Be about the work, not about yourself. Um, Tom also went out of his way to help me out when there was a troublesome scene that I wasn't maybe totally getting, and maybe I had something to react to. I was maybe working with a tennis ball or having a hard time with something, and he would jump behind the camera and just give me a performance to react to, just because I needed the help.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do that. That is not part of the job. That was not Clark Kent's character was not supposed to be there, but he would just leap in and do something to give me more to react to. So, God, I'm only realizing this now on Shadow Lord, because we can't always do cast records.
Sure.
I make sure that I read with all of the actors if I can be there. If I can't be there, unfortunately, then I can't. But I always hang out for the entirety of the session, if whenever I can, to read with all the actors so that they get some sense of working communally with the rest of the cast. And that probably comes from some of the experiences I have with Tom on Smallville.
Hmm.
Um, he didn't let people do it alone. He was very, very inclusive, and he was very about trying to make everyone be as good as they could be. And so, yeah, to say I like Tom Welling is an understatement. I think the guy is a tremendous professional, incredible at what he does, and there's not a lot of people like that.
I agree. He is much like you and Maul, he's very protective,
Hmm.
rightfully so, of what he did for a decade, and now
Yeah,
for a 25-year legacy after.
yeah.
Um, the one time you and I have spoke before was not too long after your departure from the show in
Hmm.
'09. And stuff I feel like I could talk about now that's
Sure,
so
you
far
can.
removed, but
Sure,
sure
you
you
can.
can. Um, there were discussions at one point about you coming back for the ninth season,
Right.
in
Yeah.
a very different role, and
Yeah.
it's something we've talked about here on the show before. So it's but I candidly or uncandidly, however you want to discuss it. But I want to hear from you about the decision to not come back for Zod,
Yeah.
and leaving things as they were with Doomsday for you.
Yeah. It must have been a real surprise to the producers because they were nothing but sweet to me. And I think that, well, aside from when they made me shave my chest, that was weird. That was very weird. But they were cool. They were very. There's a whole story to that. That's a sort of an inside joke to the people who know. Um, God, it was hilarious. Do you know that story? The
I do know
chest
that
shaving
story.
story?
About our listeners probably don't, but if you
Yeah,
wanna
well,
share.
basically, I was supposed to be, taking a shower, showering blood off me. I am freshly, finally, sort of coming back up to speed after my surgery, and, I'm about to leave town and go back to LA, and someone goes, "Hey, Sam, wanna talk to you about shaving your chest. What do you think about that? How do you feel about that?" And I'm on my way to the plane.
How
I'm
do
like,
I feel?
"Well, listen, I'm on my way to catch the car to the plane. I don't want to shave my chest, but you are welcome to call me up and try to talk me into it, but I gotta go right now." So I did. And then I go to LA. I'm home for a few days, and then I fly back to Vancouver. No call was forthcoming. There was no call. So then I'm on set, and we are starting to shoot, and I'm naked. I'm like naked, And sometimes, yes, sometimes maybe they give me a little thing over me, and sometimes they don't. And it's a really uncomfortable place for an actor to be. And I'm trying to have a creative performance as well while being naked. And that producer that shall remain nameless shows up and goes, wait a second. You were supposed to shave your chest. And I was like, you guys had the opportunity to talk. No, we talked to you about it. I'm like, no, you really did not talk to me about it. No. And they're like, it started actually weirdly enough. They kept sending representatives to the set, and it was so awkward because I'm naked. And these different people are coming in, and the first one looks me over and goes, "Oh, yeah, I thought it was going to be like David Hasselhoff, but it's fine. It's actually fine. Okay, I'm going to go talk to him." And then someone else showed up, and they'd be like, "Oh, see, I thought it was going to be like Tom Selleck, but it's actually fine. I don't know what the problem is." And then the producer that shall remain nameless shows up and goes, "This is unacceptable. You need to shave it." And I'm like, I'm shooting right now. You're talking to me between setups for my close-up. What's going on? Oh, we talked to you about this. No, you really didn't. You truly didn't. And at some point,
this is the shower scene when you've got the blood on everything.
And this is not what you want to be doing to it. While an actor's shooting, you do not want to be this obliterating their confidence and splitting their focus and doing all this inappropriate stuff. You don't spring something like this on an actor when they're shooting. That's entirely inappropriate. And at some point I said, being the smartass that I was back then, I was like, let me ask you a question. He's like, it's a rule on the show. There's no chest hair on the show. I'm like, is that because the show started where the characters were all high school students and now they're 30? And he's like, no, it's just a rule. And then he walked out of the room for a second and makeup goes to me and goes, that's exactly why the rule was on this show. It's just that they've all forgotten. But that is why the rule was on the show. You don't have chest hair because they were supposed to be 16. Now they're 30. It's 10 years later or whatever. Finally, I'm like, okay, look, I'll do it. But right now, and this is just me being it wasn't me being a dick. It was going, I'll do it. But you know what I think I need right now from you, sir? Apologize to me right now in front of all these people. This is totally inappropriate. Totally inappropriate. And so he did. So I'm like, all right, well, let's do it. Let's shave and then I had to shave my chest for like the rest of the season or whatever. But like, it was not the best way for them to handle it. Anyway,
see, and then I'm like, okay, I shaved mine. Now you shaved I hand the razor to you. You shaved
that
yours.
Same producer, I think, was maybe the guy who told me about Zod. And maybe that was what gave me my first impression of like, how about fuck no? Like, because, you're going to come back as Zod. And I'm like, not when you say it. Not when you say that to me. I don't want to hear anything from you. You're the guy that made me shave my chest and was a dick about it, Really, really what it came down to was originally the idea, even though the contract was for a multi-year contract, Smallville was supposed to end with season 8.
Sure.
And they thought, well, the show is declining viewership. We're going to end with season 8. And then what happened was they all did such a tremendous job. Kelly Souders, Brian Peterson, Todd Slavkin, Darren Swimmer. They did such a great job that the ratings went up. Mm-hmm. So then Warner Brothers was like, okay, well, why not seasons 9 and 10? And because my contract, even though we had a handshake agreement that this was going to be one season, my contract said multiple seasons. So they said, you're going to be back as Zod. For me, the job was a calculated 1-year thing so that I could go on and try to get that leading role. I wanted to be the lead of my own series. It was a goal that I had, and I wanted to do it. Meanwhile, funny enough, another series came looking for me to be the lead. Maybe I shouldn't say which one it was, but it was a very good series. And I was told by the showrunner later, like, yeah, you were our guy, but Smallville had you under contract. And I was supposed, if it was going to be only 1 year, I would have been gone by the time that I could go and do that. Yeah. So I already had, saying that I'm going to give up a job, like bird in the hand, to try to get the two in the bush, to try to get a leading role is a risk. But it was a risk I was willing to take because already there was someone that came sniffing around saying, we want you to be the lead in this one series. And it was such a good series. So I was like, I want to roll the dice. I want to be out there auditioning. That was what it was. It was, and also I felt like, hey, Davis is a serial killer. his likeness has been circulated around among the entire city. How is a guy going to be walking around with that face? That kind of hamstrings you, doesn't it? It kind of paints you in a corner. Because they were like, he's going to be running around and having the time of his life and going to parties. I'm like, how? He looks just like a serial killer. That doesn't make any sense. So I thought it was better for them to get another actor. And it was better for me because at least I could try to get that leading role that I wanted. And I did it I think it was within a year of Smallville.
Close,
when I
yeah.
Being Human.
Right.
And there was a pilot I did that didn't go, which was another leading thing. And there was Darabont wanted me for Walking Dead. I was not available because of that pilot. So I was like, look, I think if there was ever a time for me to be auditioning, it's right now. And then I got Being Human, which was really satisfying, really, really fun. So it was really more that. It was that. What's up?
No, sorry, I was interrupted. I was saying how much I enjoyed Being Human and watching it specifically because of you and Sam was the whole reason I went to that show.
Yeah, we loved being together. It was the other thing was that it allowed me to be funny. It was a funny show. It was a drama. It's played for drama, but there were so many laughs, and I loved the challenge of playing something straight, like it being the very grim straight man, furrowed brow, and he's totally serious, and then something happens that is not funny to me, but it's funny for the audience. That's so much fun for me, like just to play the character, fish out of water again, but to make that funny. That was a challenge I'd never been given before, and so I was, that was what I was looking for. I was looking for something like that. And so, yeah, it wasn't anything against these wonderful folks trying to give me another job. It was simply that I wanted to be out auditioning to see if I could make that dream for myself come true. That was what it was about. And I was willing to give up a job that I already had to go and do that.
Was there part of you that, knowing these storylines and these characters and everything, was there a part of you that was like, I could have been Doomsday and Zod right back to back? Like,
do you know what's funny? There was one moment where I considered it, and that producer I'm telling you about, if any of the producers are listening, he killed your one chance, because I said, there was one day I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, they have me under contract. They could compel me to do this. What if I did do it? What would I want to do? Well, I'd want to figure out where my voice and Terrence Stamp's voice intersected, and I would want to bring in some sort of dialect that was not mine. I would want to do that. And so I was talking about that, and then I said the words Neil before Zod. And that producer, he did the following. He said, and by the way, I didn't do it badly. And that producer goes, yeah, but not if you say it like that, not with that accent. And I was like, then I'm fucking out, man. I don't.
Is it sad that I know exactly who you're talking about?
Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking. But it was hilarious. Like, again, that was the one moment where I was like, maybe I do it and try to get my leading role later. I know every year is a year that's gone by, but what if I do it? Oh, I would do it like this. This is how I would do it. And then I sort of did it in front of him, and he's like, not like that. I'm like, well, then I'm not your guy. Yeah. So yeah, I was willing to roll the dice, and I'm kind of that guy anyway. I don't like being around in situations that I don't feel like I fit very well in. If I feel like, I have some specific ideas, and certainly I try to fit my ideas within the framework. But if there's something that I really want to do or don't want to do, yes, I leave jobs if that's the case.
Did you feel by that point, whether or not it was because of said producer, but did you feel you weren't fitting in by the end of that season?
Well, I think this is where we talk about the disagreements we had about how we ended Davis's story.
Sure.
I didn't have any kind of influence or clout to back up what I was saying to them. And by the way, for the record, this is we can talk about this now years later. What I regret is that I think I talked to one person about how I felt about how that story ended. And then that one outlet multiplied into many outlets. Yeah. So it made it sound like I was telling everyone that would listen how much I hated the way that Davis went out. And it's like, it's actually not totally true. I was stupid enough to say it to one person, and I shouldn't have, because goes against what my job is. The job as an entertainer, job as an actor. I need to let the audience decide how they feel about that.
Mhm.
Now, I said it after it aired, but what I failed to take into account was how lovely everything else that they wrote was, and that they did write the story that they wanted to write, and they brought a show not back from the dead because it wasn't dead, but they gave it longevity. They gave it the 10
Absolutely.
seasons. So these people did an incredible job, and it must have felt really ungrateful on my part that that I objected publicly, even if it was in one outlet. Doesn't matter. Like one outlet may as well be 100 outlets. It was wrong of me to object publicly like that. At the time, again, I didn't think anyone cared what I thought. I was like, whatever, I'm just saying my opinion. Who the hell am I? And then you find out real quick, you're like, no, people pay attention to this stuff. You got to be careful. I've made this mistake since then. And these days I'm better at not making this mistake, but I always make the assumption that no one cares about what my opinion is. And if you were part of these projects, it's built in that there is some interest in what people think about the opinion. But yeah, ultimately, what I'd hoped is that if I did have that leading role that I was going for, that if I had an objection like I did in Smallville, that I'd have enough influence to actually fix it up.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
because I could write them about, because what I was trying to tell them about the Davis thing is I said, you spent a whole season getting the audience invested in these characters and invested in Davis. The way we're doing it makes it feel like, yeah, but your investment doesn't mean anything. He was always going to be a really bad guy. And, and these relationships that you're investing in, he doesn't care. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe there's a way we can do this where we maintain some of it. It's a little bit more tragic. Because I think the audience will go with tragedy. What they won't go with is telling them that the relationship they invested in is not what you thought. And haha, he's just a really, really bad guy. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's also, if you wanted to do this ending, we should have been building toward that. Like, yes, he's been hurting people, but you made it so that he's hurting really bad people.
Bad people.
And he's doing his best. So with him, also I love Aaron Ashmore. So I just, all of it felt terrible that I had to emotionally commit to taking him off the show and saying that he's not Jimmy Olsen. And anyway, I'm doing the same thing that I did years ago. I'm expressing.
No,
my
you're
opinion,
not. You're not because you're literally saying how different you feel about it. But do you feel representative? Does that still happen with you where you're like, I killed Jimmy? Like, is it still a negative for you on the ending?
I liked that he showed up at the end as Jimmy. So that felt like it made it right a little bit. But,
Right. Yeah.
But these jobs are hard to get. And I thought Aaron Ashmore was such a tremendously gifted actor. I thought he was so great. He was so pleasant that it hurt a lot to do that scene. It really, really sucked for me. It sucked so bad. Stabbing the guy. Oh God. It was really, really hard. It was really hard. And I went for it as hard as I could, but that really hurt me. And then, and I know it hurt him. And again, I just felt like there's a way to navigate all of these pieces you put on the board where we don't invalidate the audience's feelings toward Davis and Chloe, and we stick a little bit more true to his character. That there's something he can do where he can still go out, he can still die, but maybe not like this. And so going forward, really what it was is like, I want to be in shows where if I see a problem coming, I can call it out and have a creative discussion and see if we can mitigate or fix it. That's why I wanted to be a lead. And certainly on Being Human, we had such a hugely collaborative thing. There would be times where perhaps I thought we were steering into trouble, and they resulted in some really great conversations where a wonderfully creative solution emerged, right? That's not usually the job though. So they're not wrong for not wanting to have that discussion with me. You're like, dude, you're an actor. Here are your lines. Say them. We're paying you. You sign a contract. That's cool. Go back to Battlestar Galactica. That's not how they made me. Battlestar Galactica ruined me forever. So I like collaboration. And the other thing is that I have a good track record for calling out how the audience is going to respond before they do. And I've done this where I've warned people they're going to feel this way about this. Oh, no, they won't. They will. And then it turns out that they do. So, on things like Being Human or other jobs or indeed Shadowlord, they always result in great, great discussions. And it's not about I'm right, you're wrong. Well, no, it's more, I need to put this on the table. I need you to look at this. This is a difficulty we're having. So what is it you want to achieve? Showrunner, writer, filmmaker, what do you want to achieve? Great. This is an obstacle. If we do it like that, they're going to feel this way. But is there a different way we can go about this where we can get the same thing you want, but we don't antagonize the audience? It's that. And that's really, I mean, again, probably why I was anxious to seek out a leading role, because I wanted to have those discussions. I wanted to have discussions where, if I saw that there was trouble coming, I was not only welcome to call it out, I was maybe expected to call it out,
I'd have to think it's hard for you to find regrets that are damning enough that make you wish for going back in time and doing something differently, because the dominoes, the opportunity, the level you're
Yeah.
playing has fallen so well the way it has. Because
and again,
you're doing what you want to be doing, right? I mean, you are.
I'm doing exactly,
Yeah.
And also not traveling as much, which is exactly what
Right.
I'm doing right now. I've just lived in every city but the city I live in, and now I've been in LA for a few years, which is like, oh my God, I wish more things shot here.
Yeah.
But I've found ways to keep myself busy in this town while staying here and being with my dogs. But I do want to state that what they wanted to do with Davis to them made perfect sense. And I don't disagree with their logic.
Right.
I'm like, no, there is a way to do that. There's a way to do that. It's just, I think the way that we did it was so brutal and so out there that, like, we either needed to be building it into the season on the way there so that it was still a shock, but you could totally make it make sense in your head, or just do it in a slightly different way that achieves the same results. So I think it was between killing Jimmy, which hurt me, and the fact that there wasn't a channel to have a discussion about that. I think, and the fact that I was, again, looking for that discussion. I mean, that's ultimately why I felt like I needed to go off and audition rather than play Zod. Because I don't know, maybe I'm not that great as a gun for hire. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I can't do that. Maybe I'm like, I've been on shows that were line perfect shows and did just fine. Once Upon a Time was a line perfect show, and they told me that. And that was that went great, because they told me exactly how much room I had to play in, and I did that, But if it's going to be a long-term thing where it's going to be years of my life, I don't think I'm capable of just of staying silent. And I think it's because I just saw too much in my career of when you put the right people in the right position, no matter what, if it's a grip or a actor or a sound guy or whoever, good ideas can come from anywhere. And if you keep your ears open and you take your ego out of it, you can make something extraordinary. And I'm not saying they didn't take their ego. These guys were tremendously humble. It's just that I wasn't in a position where I had any, I didn't have any say on how David went out, and
Sure.
I wanted that. I felt like invested in the character. I wanted some discussion, so.
That makes perfect sense. And I mean, I get that. I get you saying maybe I'm not a good gun for hire if I'm coming in and doing what I'm told and walking out at the end of the day and not having. But I don't agree with that.
I have been a good gun for hire, but my thing is, if someone doesn't explicitly tell me that it's a line perfect show, that's not how I operate. It just doesn't. It never has been. I've always brought an improvisational thing to every job unless they tell me specifically not to. Everyone else has been so nice. I've been so lucky to work with, like, again, the people on Smallville, aside from that one producer. What I'm not telling you is how sweet, how absolutely sweet and wonderful Todd Slavkin was, or Darren Swarr.
Todd and Darren were fantastic. All four of
Ryan
them were.
Peterson, Kelly Souders. These were really, really good people. These were really talented people, extraordinarily nice. And like I said, their work is the reason Smallville got 10 seasons. You know? And my complaint about not having a discussion about Davis's thing, that's really on me, because that's not the position I had on that show. The position I had on that show was say the lines. So I did do that. I did go in and say them to the best of my ability. I did kill Jimmy. I did try to commit to that and make it as scary and terrifying as possible. You know, my position was not to have that discussion. So it is not on them at all that that discussion didn't take place. It was just that I wanted to be in a position where I could have that discussion. That's why I went looking for the lead role thing.
Yeah.
But they were incredible. They were so nice. They were fun. They were excited about the ideas. And I think the fact that Smallville got 10 seasons proves that they knew exactly what they were doing, you know? And
Well,
I will say this. I've heard audience members who agree with the way that the Davis thing played out, but it certainly didn't invalidate their feelings for the season, and it didn't invalidate their feelings for the show. They still loved the show. So, you know, ultimately here I am saying I disagree with people who nailed it. You know, they nailed it.
I don't know that I've even talked to, just here in closing, I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody that just outright disliked Davis, or, you know, there's a reason they called him the charismatic paramedic, again, as we've joked on the show for years. But, and that's, you know, a great deal to your credit on screen and how you carry yourself. But I've never really heard anybody say that they didn't care for the character, that now they didn't like that he killed Jimmy more often than not. But
you know, it was a really pleasant experience. And you know, aside from the times that I was recovering from surgery.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sam, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you being on today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.